Welcome ladies and gentlemen, my name's Nightfall here in this Destiny 2 video, and today we're going to be taking a look at my top 10 Warlock Exotics in Destiny 2 for both PvE and PvP. And as always, this is completely subjective, based on my opinion, how I like to play Warlock, as well as the opinion of my buddies who helped me get the PvP gameplay, and of course the PvP side of the spreadsheet. Link to their stuff in the description down below. And of course, as always, I have made a spreadsheet for this video, which you can still find at my Discord server, linked down in the description down below on the channel, #spreadsheetsdocs. And this spreadsheet has all of the different things you could possibly want to know about best mods, other mods, PvE and PvP ranks for all the different exotics for all of the Warlock Exotics, actually. Which brings me to my second point. The first part of this video, we're going to go over the top 10 and the honorable mentions through reverse order, and then the other side of the video, I'm going to talk about all of the non-ranked items as briefly as I can, which a lot of you may skip out on, but I recommend taking a look and watching that, because there's a lot of great exotics that just don't fit in the top 10, because I have to pick 10 of them. Out of the 33 or so Warlock Exotics, I can only pick 10. So there's still lots of good ones that you should check out. And as a TLDR here, there are a couple things that definitely went down for Warlocks, removing the only 9 out of 10 that the Warlocks had, and generally it seems like they are the weakest class when it comes to exotics, but I have not yet raided the Titan and the Hunter after the changes. And of course, the cute animals on screen right now, for those of you who watch all the way to this point of the video, and of course to confuse you as I tell you about my Patreon. Truly, spreadsheets like this and videos like this are not possible without the Patreon. Truly, like, I would have to get a part-time job and I wouldn't have the time to make the spreadsheets. If you want to see them continue, please consider checking out my Patreon in the description down below. Moving on, let's go ahead and get into it. On screen right now, you can actually see my spreadsheet. As you can tell, I have everything that you'd possibly want here. Dark theme, color-coded, pictures, information, mod recommendations, some notes, and of course PvE and PvP ranking, based again subjectively on my opinion, as well as the top 10. And of course, as always, oftentimes the reason why certain things are ranked the way they are is going to be more important than just picking the #1 exotic. You're not going to always use transversive in everything you do. First up, for the only honorable mention, we have the Lunafaction Boots, an exotic that did not make the top 10, but definitely an exotic that you're going to want to have for the very specific niche of during DPS phase on bosses. For the Vault of Glass final boss, for the Templar, all of the raid final bosses, we usually want one Lunafaction Warlock for the best possible reload and double range for using something that needs range, like a slug shotgun. Otherwise, it's not a lot of fun. It doesn't have that many uses, but it's definitely something you need in your vault. After that, at number 10, we have the Nezarec Sin, a somewhat fan-favorite exotic that a lot of people really like using. However, I find most people confuse its benefit with Devour. If you don't know this exotic, any void damage kill, which is any void damage, you don't even need a void subclass, will give you ability energy recharge. Something like 5% across all of your abilities, and then Devour gives you that 20% on top of that to your grenades, which is what most people like using it with, and confuse the Devour's bonus with Nezarec. Keeping in mind, you can use Nezarec with anything. You can be stasis with Nezarec using a Gnawing Hunger and get bonus from it, which is one of my favorite parts, and something definitely worth using. Following that, at number 9, we have the Boots of the Assembler that takes the support role for the Warlock to the next level, whereas one of the bigger issues with Rift is it's small, and people have to be inside of it, and it may not be a great spot for it. These boots makes it so you can shoot out little noble rounds automatically, healing and empowering depending on which one you're in, including the Wells bonus to your teammates in a pretty large area. And on top of that, the empowering bonus gives you that full 35%. Instead of the 20-25, it gives you the full damage bonus that the bubble gives you as well. So in certain circumstances where you have more Warlocks than you know what to do with, you can actually make all of your Titans into Missile Titans with Falling Star and use Boots of the Assembler to fill that role. And as a last note, I do think it's a decent option as a replacement for Phoenix Protocol, but I still prefer Phoenix. Up next after that, we have the Aeon Soul. Pretty much every Aeon exotic in the game is exactly the same for all 3 different classes for the exact same reason. My favorite part of this exotic for PvE is going to be Insight, which gives you the ability to spawn in heavy and special ammo for your teammates just by finishing a champion or a major enemy respectively. And one of the biggest issues with heavy weapons is their ammo economy. They don't start with a massive amount of ammo, and they don't get a lot of ammo, which is why we generally favor more towards the exotic specials like Ariana's, Divinity, Bastion, Wither Horde, and things like Anarchy and 1K, while really strong, do suffer from not having a rally flag. And just in general, if you're doing a Grandmaster Nightfall and you don't know what to use, Aeon is a great default. Because again, you don't have to spend super energy or points or whatever on getting heavy ammo and special ammo for your team. On top of all the other bonuses that it can do. This is just one small part. There's the super one, there's the ability one, the class ability, the gun bonuses, etc, etc. There's a lot of great stuff. Coming up next at number 7, we have the Verdi's Brow, a new addition to the top 10, and did get a change and a buff this season. If you've never heard of it, weapon final blows with the matching damage type to your subclass, so if you're using solar damage with a solar subclass, gives you death throws, which the death throws can stack up to 5 stacks, give you grenade damage bonus of 20% per stack, up from 10%, and give you grenade energy. That grenade energy seems more like a regeneration, maybe like 10 discipline. And finally, when you have death throws and you throw a grenade, nearby allies gain greatly increased grenade regeneration for a short period of time. And if you don't know, the word greatly is something that means a lot. For example, the Falling Star says greatly on it, and that's double damage. So greatly is really strong at helping your team get their grenades. And with this, just getting a damage kill with a weapon that matches your subclass is also really simple. Ariana's Vow and well, you can get a lot of grenade bonuses. However, my favorite part is that you can actually use it with stasis. Something like Vulpecula does stasis damage and does work with this exotic. And you can also use those freezy grenade turret things, and if you have 2 Warlocks doing that, they just start getting freezy turret grenades all over the place non-stop. So there's definitely a lot of great uses across all the grenades. Outside of Void, which I still prefer Controvers, it's an excellent option. Following that at number 7, we have Eye of Another World. If you've never heard of it, it highlights priority targets, which are generally low-held targets with a silhouette, not through walls, and improves their generation speed of your grenade, melee, and rift abilities. From my experience, it seems to be around 30 in discipline, strength, and recovery, outside of the other recovery bonus, just for the ability regeneration, which means you have to have relatively lower stats to get the best benefit from it. That's why I mistook this exotic so long ago, is because I generally had very high stats in a lot of these things, so I didn't see a lot of difference. And furthermore, it's going to give you a bigger bonus in stasis, since stasis abilities take a little bit longer. And so, if you're using anything that's really nice with your abilities, Eye of Another World is going to be an operative choice for PvP. Following that at number 5, a new entry, we have the Stag. And the Stag has been making a lot of waves recently. And I've recently made a build video. Arc Warlock Stag, with no time to explain, is an excellent Trials of Osiris option, but the general idea is that you're 15% more resistant in your Rift and 25% more in PvE, which forces 140 hand cannons to a minimum of a 4-shot kill, which are generally going to be the best option for hand cannons, where the 120s may not have cared about this bonus of resistance and healing. The 140s definitely do, and you're going to win a lot more engagements because you have healing and resistance, and you have the better time to kill than your enemy. And there are plenty of ways to give you a bunch of ability energy, especially with this exotic going critically wounded, and it drops a healing rift on your corpse, making it so your teammates can revive you a lot easier. So Trials of Osiris, this is an excellent option. Up next at number 4, we have the Phoenix Protocol, which has fallen a little bit from its 9 out of 10 in PvE. However, I still think it's going to be a fantastic exotic. If you don't know, this season they finally took every single other super generating exotic that hasn't been touched yet to a maximum generation of 50%. That includes Ursa Furiosa, Phoenix Protocol, and all the other exotics, including Stormdancer's Brace, which is a new effect. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Now here's the thing. People have this idea, if that a super generating exotic stops giving you 100% of your super, getting back-to-back supers constantly, it must be trash. But that's just not the case. You get half of your super back, meaning you can use your well twice as often. The well, which is basically unkillable, extra damage, more grenades, helps your entire team, thing that people use in Grandmasters all the time. So yes, it has fallen a little bit. It is not as good as it was. But if you combine a Phoenix Protocol well with a Ursa Furiosa Titan, again, they're still locked at 50%, and you bounce off of each other's orbs, you can get your well pretty damn frequently. Not to mention there's a third teammate who can also do something like maybe Orpheus Rig or whatever they're using to give you more orbs. In my opinion, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Up next at number 3 is going to be the Ophidian Aspect. That got a lot of popularity last season when we had a nerf to Quick Draw. This particular exotic, weapons ready faster and reload very quickly, and melee range is extended. And that's it. That's all this thing does. It makes the weapons a lot more comfortable, a lot faster, and more melee range on top of the already really long rubber banding melee range of the Warlocks. And to be honest, that's it. Just a great exotic, works really well. That's what you want in PvP. Following that at number 2, we have the Controvers Hull, one of the more fun exotics in the game, which firstly you resist incoming damage while charging your grenades, and you also get 30 to 80% of your grenade energy back on a hit, which is going to be the most important part, is you don't require ability kills, which are somewhat difficult to do in the highest level. You just need a hit. I personally like using it with the top tree Attunement of Chaos, which is going to be the charging, more damage, bigger grenade, easier hits, more damage, and the grenade comes back more frequently. Combine this with the Elemental Wells or the Charge with Light grenade bonuses, you get good grenades constantly. And on top of that, middle tree got a bunch of different buffs. Nova Warp is nearly twice as strong. Handheld Supernova is literally double the damage, and you can use it with this exotic, which is really powerful. So next season, with Void 3.0, I expect them to pull out an Oppressive Darkness of some kind. This exotic may end up being the top of the top. Right now, it's still amazing, and I would recommend it. And finally, at number 1 in this countdown, and the best PvP exotic, we have the Transversive Steps. And honestly, when I think about like a shooter game, what's the best thing? It's usually not mobility, it's usually like damage, but this exotic is for some reason really good. Firstly, you get more sprint speed. Regardless of your mobility level, having more speed makes you harder to hit, which is very important in shooter games, especially in PvP. And you can also chase down enemies more frequently, you can escape shots more frequently. It's just an overall amazing thing to go faster, and that's why I always support having very high mobility on Titans, on Hunters, and even on Warlocks. Even with their Icarus Dash being nerfed and usually wanting lower mobility, Transversive Steps makes a big difference. And finally, it has that auto-loading thing. So if you have a slow-loading weapon or a weapon like a shotgun where you need ammo while you're sprinting down an enemy, this allows you to auto-load in case you need that. No matter what your weapon is, no matter how long it takes to reload the weapon, auto-loading, just sprint for 2 seconds, it's fantastic. Right, with the top 10 out of the way, let's go and talk about all of the unranked items. And I would highly recommend checking this part out, because there's going to be a lot of diamonds in the rough, a lot of great exotics that just missed the top 10, and a lot of exotics that you may have thought were good, and I have some reasons why I don't like them. First up, we have Apotheosis Veil, giving you a number of bonuses to your ability stuff and class ability to your teammates whenever you pop your super, but there's not really any circumstance that makes a difference. Astrocyte Verse, a very high skill floor, high skill ceiling exotic that solves every issue you have with Blink, making it much better, but definitely, again, very high skill. You'll probably see them with professionals, and you may see it more often next season with Void 3.0, but kind of hard to use. And again, I guess technically we did get a buff to Void this season. You may see it more. Crown of Tempest, giving you a lot of bonuses for your ability stuff, giving you more ability energy, including your super and making your Storm Trance last longer, and a decent option. The problem is that arc ability kills are just not that common for PvP, so you may not see a lot of it in PvP. Dawn Chorus, an exotic that got an indirect buff whenever we got a ton of burn effects and extra stuff to Attunement Flame, Bottom Tree Solar, and yes, it made it better, but for the most part, you're never gonna get that extra Daybreak projectile damage because your enemy is not gonna be burning before you hit them with that first shot. However, in PvE, you could probably get some pretty insane damage, and I have not yet tested that damage. I have seen a video from, I think, Error or something. It's definitely going to appear in my spreadsheet with super damage that I'm going to do later this season. Fellwinter's Helm. It makes a disorient effect, a smoke bomb effect, and a weaken effect on your enemy target. However, it was better with ranged melees, which both got gutted this season. Stasis and Celestial are nowhere near where they used to be. Skull of Dire Hamkara, a very fun exotic, super damage and kills for super energy. Maxed out at 50%, Supernova Bomb is really strong. However, just missing top 10. Claws of Hamkara used to be like top 5 exotic last season, considering, again, Celestial and Stasis was so freaking good, considering it's literally just an additional melee charge. It's highly dependent on good melees, and Warlocks don't really have that many great melees now. Getaway Artist. Number of people are definitely using this exotic, giving you that much better Arc Soul. Arc Soul in general did also get a buff. However, some people have definitely gravitated more towards the Stag over this exotic, but it's a good alternative. Karnstein Armlets, again, melee damage. Not a lot of great melees on Warlocks of late. It is still really nice though. I do like the fact it gives you half your health immediately and 8 seconds of regeneration speed, which is a lot. Necrotic Grip. This exotic is a lot of hype. The damage bonus is not that great. The effect is not that big, and the glitch right now with the fire damage thing is probably going to get patched. And you're also sometimes forced into using the Thorn, which is not a good PvE exotic. Following that, we have the Nothing Manacles, which is actually the new exotic for this season, giving you an additional scatter grenade charge, and it gives you tracking to those scatter grenade projectiles, which does allow you to one-shot an enemy with a scatter grenade, because they all track in now. However, they do a lot of the times hit each other, so they'll just kind of ploof right there anyways, and the tracking is kind of meh. The other way to use it is with the middle tree. Just get double handheld Supernova, but you might as well just use Controvers because it's just better. The Sunbracers, probably one of the more fun exotics in the game, allowing you to have infinite up to 5 solar grenades in a row back to back whenever you get a charged melee kill. which can be used with Celestial Fire, which also is attunement of Sky, so you get more ability stuff, getting kills in the air, which works as a good cycle. But getting that ability melee kill is not really feasible in the highest level. Winter's Guile, melee kills for melee energy, does not stack into the heavens anymore, pretty much the same as it ever was. Chromatic Fire, Dragonfly, Firefly explosion on kinetic weapons, which there are a few kinetics now that have Firefly, and there's double explosions, kind of fun, more of a gimmick. Mantle of Battle Harmony, a decent alternative for Phoenix Protocol, giving you more super energy for getting specific kills, giving you a rampage-like bonus whenever you have full super energy. There's a couple of different things about it, somewhat confusing, somewhat difficult to handle if you're not paying attention. Sanguine Alchemy, one of the worst exotics in the game, because getting a longer rift by getting kills in the same rift is not going to make a big difference, and it does not work with the well. If it worked with the well, I don't think it would be top 10, but it just doesn't. Starfire Protocol, probably would have received number 11 out of 10. This exotic got an indirect buff with all of the buffs to the well. First of all, you cannot be frozen in your well, meaning that enemies in PvP can no longer just negate your entire ability of having an overshield. Although I think the sword can be frozen and shattered, so there's that as well. Which a lot of people end up using this exotic if you want to just get double healing grenades, so you can throw down an overshield whenever you want it with overflow charges. Stormdancer's Brace got a big buff this season, so you get more damage with your Storm Trance as you get kills with it, and you get some super energy back with the kills with it, which means up to 50% by the way, which means it's a lot better. But Storm Tickle Fingers is still not my favorite. Probably the best arc one these days though, for sure. Vespers of Radius. If you want constant rifts, this is your exotic. I think a lot of people use it with the Stasis Explosion, Arc Explosion combo, and tons of rift. However, I would prefer Stag. Wings of Sacred Dawn, an exotic that's really high skill floor, high skill ceiling, getting shots from locations that nobody is looking at, but you pretty much have to be a pro to really get this thing working very well. Geomag Stabilizers, a fallen brethren, let me tell you. Geomag Stabilizers have completely disappeared from PvP meta after they removed the latter part where you can sprint to top off your super. It is no longer needed in PvP, and the Chaos Reach got nerfed in a bunch of different ways. However, it's still just as feasible for PvE. You can make it so you last twice as long while using the super, which is a very high DPS and impact, and the downsides and the nerfs aren't really affecting PvE. And finally, Promethean Spur, another exotic that did get a buff this season, making it so it not only spawns the healing and empowering rifts whenever you get daybreak kills, there's also a bit of neutral game to it, where standing in a rift and getting solar weapon final blows give you rift energy. When your rift energy is full, again after casting a rift, your final blows consume your rift energy and release a healing and empowering rift at target's location. So you have to constantly build up this rift energy to spawn more rifts at your target and then run at your target. It's not worth it. Although I like the uniqueness of it. And of course, a big thank you to my Patreon on Patreon. Truly, without their help, these spreadsheets really would not be possible. They take 10 to 20 hours every single week, and if I did not have the resources from Patreon, I would have to get a part-time job, and I would not have the time to make the spreadsheet. So, huge thank you to them. Check a link to my Patreon if you want to see more in the future. And that's it. I hope you guys did enjoy. My name's Nightchronic, and I will see you guys on the next one.